In our first story, there's confusion at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly office this morning over the scheduled swearing-in of new leadership. And my colleague Hano Dam is currently at the scene gathering information and will give you more of that as and when we get it from the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Let's move on to the story. And living with disability in many parts of the capital, sometimes outside, it means living a hopeless life, characterized mainly by street wandering, begging, and the like. At Kani, a remote community in the Upper West region of Ghana, about 5% of the 6,000 inhabitants living with various forms of disabilities, including some 50 visually impaired persons, are making a decent living for themselves through organized vegetable farming amidst neglect. Joining us is Komla Dum, who visited the community nicknamed Disabled Village, reports irrigation challenges and rampaging livestock are threatening to bring the hard work of these persons to naught. There's more in the first part of the following report.
They are mostly without sight or limbs and with diminishing hope, but determined. They call it a way of life here in Kani, a remote village far off the Upper West regional capital. This is where the region's disabled, unfit and desperate drift to, obviously to live and belong. A predominantly farming community in the smallest district of the Upper West region, bordered to the south by the Lambusi district itself, to the north by Ghana's boundary with Burkina Faso, to the west by the Lora district, and to the east by the Sisala West district, Kani has an intriguing story, one that many describe as nothing short of inspirational. In a field of an open vegetable garden for the physically challenged, a man with visual impairment is spending another day watering his beds of vegetable seedlings. 50-year-old Peter, who is visually impaired, has been farming for nearly 10 years in his condition. He tells me he's become so used to a routine without any assistance.
Every day I come here, there's not any, I have not any, what will I call it? If you look at, we call what? Guide. I have not any guide. I have children too, but I cannot let them to guide me here so that they are school children. So I'll come in myself. Okay. Yes, and then we do my work.
Yeah. Now, how do you identify these from the plant?
Oh, okay. One here, and then take a route. So do the place and then you stand here. If there's a hole, teach you, and then come, collect the things when that is.
Tell you how you make this load.
When you do that, you see this here, the wall will go up. If there's here, like that, if you transplant things, you know, the water cannot move away. Yeah, in the line line. So here's my route. This is tomatoes. And here too, the same onions as here.
For Peter, this definitely couldn't be any bigger challenge, though he is unable to see. Meet Abdallah. He is in his late 40s. Abdallah, a father of 6, also became visually impaired many years ago. He can't even tell how long. Unlike Peter, Abdallah often requires assistance to make his way to the garden. He sometimes hires children in the community to weed for him at a fee.
We are currently on the farm or the garden of the visually impaired people living here in Kani, and it is amazing to see that scores of these people who for some reason cannot see are putting themselves to very good use. It is indicative that with a little effort, all of us can put ourselves to good use. I'm here with one of the visually impaired persons. I'm going to find out from him how he's able to do this.
Antimi invest papa. I said, yeah, and the can. Abia Obanya, the can by say, Abia, if you do 1 million.
Even though he sometimes gets lost on his way to the farm, he finds some children around who volunteer to help him to get to the farm. He's also been telling us that, for example, when they grow the crops, they do not have a ready market to convey the crops immediately where people can come and buy them in bulk. But he's confident that with the effort he's putting in, life will be better for himself and his family someday.
Peter and Abdullah are only two of the over 50 visually impaired persons living here in Kani whose source of livelihood is tilling a garden. 45-year-old Munira crawls across her vegetable bed with a hoe in her hand, softening the hardened earth in preparation to sow onion seedlings. She's been tricycle ridden for nearly 15 years. With her moving aid parked at the garden gate, she crawls on her backside into the garden for work. Others, including the partially hunched Yasum, also appear busy, planting bean seedlings, sorting out onion seedlings for replanting and watering their seed beds. But real-time challenges are threatening to demotivate these hard-working, physically challenged persons. From about 200 meters away from the gardens lie a dam, which appears to be drying up by the day. It is the main source of irrigation for these gardeners, but the water canals that link the gardens to the dam are inaccessible. Assembly member of the Kani Central Constituency, Kabiri Luanga, laments an irrigation redevelopment project proposed for the district remains beautifully artworked on a signage that's the farthest it's gone.
See this dam water, but getting to March, you can't drink it. But people, let me tell you, people are drinking from it. Here we have water problem, and even some of the boreholes that were dark, racially dark. Now by March till May, you cannot get water from it unless it starts to rain again. And you see that when the water level rises, then you see that we can get there. So we have water problem.
At the far end of the garden, a shoulder-level fencing around the farm has caved in, giving access to stray animals to destroy the crops of these helpless farmers. Faustina Ladi is an evangelist engaged in charity work with some underprivileged communities at Jirapa, miles away from Kani. She's been advocating better conditions for persons living with disability in the region.
These fences are lying there, they are broken, and then you have cows, you have goats, pigs coming in to destroy their crops. And I don't think it's the best. There should be a way of helping them to do it as soon as possible. I think even if we get the fence repaired right now, we'll like it, because they have plants all over the place, and the pigs are destroying them. And unfortunately, they cannot even see to say that we'll come and sit down and watch till evening. And even if they can see and they come, how long will they stay in the garden? It means they can't go any other place. And the channel, without the water, how do they water the place? So you come and plant, you put your seedlings there, you can't get water to water it. And it would have been better you don't put your seed in the ground. And we would have loved that problem to be solved right now.
26-year-old Joshua, a Dagari subject teacher in the Kani community, became disabled before age 2. Enduring the stigma as a schoolboy might have been a daunting reality to live with, but Joshua remains unfazed despite the name calling. He has a plot in the garden for the physically challenged where he used to grow vegetables and other crops until he got his first teaching job outside the village. His mother has for the past 3 years been working on his farm together with his 2 sisters in his place.
nka yɛ wɔ wɛn te bu a yɛde bɛhyɛ yɛn nan mu ɛne so ne nyinaa ɛyɛ awra ho.
The idea of creating a garden for the physically challenged and visually impaired persons here, we are told, was the brainchild of a white missionary named Sebastian over a decade ago when he visited the community. Assembly member of the area, Kabiri Luanga, tells me more.
This garden thing was started by a white man, which I cannot recollect the name. Sebastian, yes, please. Yes. So he came and gathered all those he could identify, the blind people, those he could identify together. Then he started training them how they can find their ways by themselves. So in actual fact, later on he brought an assistant, which was a specialist in garden work. Yeah, he's late now. May his soul rest in peace. Okay. So they started training them. So it got to a point that because of the technique that was in the special aid to them, he was able to train them, and the man fenced a small size of garden for them just around here. Okay. Then later on, they realized that it was something that was helping the people. Then the aid actually also went around. You know, as I was saying, that there are some who just sit in their house. They also pick others that were still hiding. Together, then they created the big garden down there. Okay. And now what happened is that I can say that some of these, people are now are even taking care of their own children in school through what they are doing.
For years, there have been efforts to uncover how one community of about 6,000 people came to have nearly 400 of them suffering one form of disability or another. But Mr. Luanga gives some explanations to demystify the curse tag of the Kani community.
For the physically challenged, we have 164. Then the visually impaired, we have 39. Yeah.
What about other people with other forms of disability?
Yes, other forms of disabilities. Let me say, if maybe it's your hand, it's your leg, it's your eye, and we put them. If both legs, then we put them together in the physically challenged category. But you know, our African tradition, there are several people of such within the community, but it's like they're hiding. It's like they're hiding. So
there could be more than the number.
There are more than that number.
Okay.
Yes.
And do we know how they came about these forms of disability? Do we know the history behind this?
Yes, I can say, especially the visually impaired. I think it came about that so many years back. You know, Kane was a center where they fascinate cattle. Okay. And cattle usually goes with some kind of flies that can, give you trachoma. So the whole Upper West region, this was the center. So, and what happened was that because people bring a lot of cattle around to fascinate and go back, so the flies that produced by these cattle goes back to harm the people. Okay. So, and this was for the visual impaired. This was one of the causes. And others too came with it from outside around with it. And with the physically challenged, I can say that, especially those that they cannot hear. Okay. Yes, it's like as I've been here, it's like measles could cause it. Okay. Yes, and even the blind, measles could cause it. So I think these are some of the things. And even most of the people you see, the crippled, the hand, you see it. So I think it was because there was not this polio fascination.
But do we have circumstances where some of these physically challenged people give birth to children who are also physically challenged?
No, we never experienced such in the community before. Never experienced such.
Okay. So how are these people able to live? How do they live in the community with each other and with the people who are not physically challenged? How do they live together?
Yes, most of them married. So if I'm blind and I'm able to marry a woman that can see, it means I will share one eye each. So it means they are always getting support from some of these things. And some of them too have brothers. And these people, you see them like that in this place, they are not just dependents. That is why they are busily, involved in this garden work.
In 2006, Parliament passed the National Disability Act intended to ensure that people living with disabilities enjoy the same rights as their able-bodied counterparts. A renewed sense of political will is urgently required despite the existence of international conventions, the proclamation of an annual International Day of Persons with Disability every 3rd December. While we wait, people with disabilities still face discrimination and receive little support from their families, homes, communities, and the country. For them, hope remains thin. Even the slightest form of disability is certainly a truly difficult ride in life. These people here at Kani have to negotiate, but life lessons without question makes it a near-perfect bargain. For Joy News, Komla Adom, Kani, Upper West Region.
Indeed, very touching story there from Komla Adom, and as we said earlier, we'll bring you the second part of this feature. You're still here on News Desk on Joy News.